1967, America was deep in the Vietnam War. The summer of love was sweeping across the country, and silver coins were disappearing fast from circulation. That year's Kennedy half-dollar was made with 40% silver, unlike modern halves, which don't contain any precious metal at all. But here's the kicker: millions of these coins were minted, but very few survived in nice condition because they were heavily used in everyday transactions. And the one you see now, with fine detail still visible on Kennedy's hair and the eagle's wings on the reverse, is better than most that got worn down to slick discs. So, what makes the 1967 Kennedy half truly exciting? It's not just the silver content, though that's valuable on its own. The real shocker is the rare double die errors that slipped out of the mint that year. Imagine finding a 1967 half with a doubling on the "In God We Trust" motto or Kennedy's profile. These rare mistakes can catapult the coin's value into the stratosphere. Even a circulated example with a prominent doubling error can bring $15,000 to $35,000 at auction. But here's where it gets crazier. High-grade uncirculated 1967 Kennedy halves with a strong double die and deep cameo frost where Kennedy's face looks almost three-dimensional have sold for more than $250,000 to the right collector. Now, even without an error, a sharply struck, nearly flawless 1967 Kennedy in Ms. 67 or Ms. 68 condition can sell for $15,000 to $50,000, depending on eye appeal and whether it's certified by PCGs or NGC. But let's bring it back to the coin you might find like the one you see here in fine condition. Even a regular, circulated piece can be worth $5 to $20 just for silver melt value. But if you happen to spot signs of a rare error, the sky's the limit. So grab your old coin jars, your parents' piggy banks, or that dusty cigar box in the attic, because you could have a coin that collectors are dying to get their hands on. How do you identify one of these valuable 1967 Kennedy half-dollars? Start by flipping it under a bright light. Look closely at the date and the words around Kennedy's profile. Doubling will look like a shadow or split in the letters or numbers. Next, check the overall condition. Original mint luster, crisp. Details in Kennedy's hair and the eagle's feathers, and minimal scratches will all raise the coin's value dramatically. And don't forget, always weigh your coin. A genuine 1967 half should come in at about 11.5 grams. Anything dramatically lighter or heavier could point to a rare planchet error or even a counterfeit. Next up, we'll uncover another Kennedy half-dollar that makes this one look like pocket change, so don't go anywhere. But before we reveal the next treasure, make sure you smash that subscribe button so you never miss another chance to discover coins that could change your life forever. Next up, moving on, get ready for a coin that will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about modern half-dollars. The 1988 Kennedy half-dollar. Most people would laugh at the idea that a coin from 1988, not even 40 years old, could be worth serious money. But this seemingly ordinary piece of pocket change can hide secrets that leave even seasoned collectors in disbelief. And if you have one like this in fine condition, you could be sitting on a small gold mine. Now, let's rewind a bit. 1988 was a year of big hair, neon jackets, and cassette tapes, but in the coin world, it was the tail end of an era when Kennedy halves were still struck for circulation. People used them for everything from vending machines to poker night. So very few survived in nice condition. The 1988 Kennedy half was made from a copper nickel-clad composition, no silver, unlike earlier coins, and that's exactly why most folks toss them aside as worthless. But what they don't know is that a small number of 1988 halves left. The Philadelphia and Denver mints with striking errors so dramatic they can fetch life-changing sums. One of the most shocking errors found on 1988 Kennedy halves is the off-center strike. Imagine Kennedy's head shifted dramatically to the side, with parts of the design cut off, a visual error so obvious it can't be missed. Even minor off-center strikes of 10-20 can bring $1,500 to $3,000. But coins with off-centers of 50% or more, where almost half the coin is blank, have sold at auction for over $50,000. Yes, you heard that right. A 1988 half-dollar could fund your dream vacation or pay a year's worth of bills if you find the right error. Another key error to look for is the double strike when the coin gets hit twice by the dice, leaving a ghostly, overlapping image of Kennedy's profile or the eagle on the reverse. These dramatic errors are highly sought after by error collectors. A strong, clear double strike on a 1988 half can easily sell for $20,000 to $40,000 in the right market. And if you're lucky enough to find one certified in high mint state, the price can skyrocket past $100,000 to the most hardcore collectors. But what if your 1988 half doesn't have an error? Don't give up yet. High-grade, uncirculated coins can still surprise you. Because Kennedy halves were not widely collected in the late 80s, and circulated rolls were often spent or broken open, so true gems are rare today. A 1988 Kennedy in Ms. 67, nearly perfect with blazing luster, can bring $1,000 to $3,000. But in Ms. 68 example, almost unheard of, has fetched over $25,000 in private sales. Now, let's talk about the coin you see here, sitting in fine condition. You can still read most of the details in Kennedy's hair, and the eagle on the back shows clear lines in the shield. There are small scratches and wear, but it's definitely a collectible piece if you find the right buyer, especially one hunting for coins to complete a date run of Kennedy halves. In today's market, a circulated 1988 half in fine condition might only fetch 50 cents to a couple of dollars, but if it shows any signs of those rare errors like doubling, off-centering, or a clipped planchet where a piece of the coin's edge is missing, the value can jump by thousands in an instant. So, how do you identify a potentially valuable 1988 Kennedy half-dollar? First, check the mint mark, a P for Philadelphia or a D for Denver. Some collectors pay extra for certain die varieties from each mint, especially if the mint mark shows signs of repunching, a small but dramatic detail where the mint mark was punched twice, slightly off. Next, examine the coin under a magnifying glass. Look for odd shapes in the date, letters, or Kennedy's profile. Errors stand out like a sore thumb once you know what to look for. And remember, even coins with dark toning or spots can be worth big money if they have the right mistake. What makes some 1988 Kennedy halves valuable? It's the perfect storm of rarity, dramatic errors, and condition. A coin with one of these rare errors, plus near-perfect preservation, becomes a trophy piece that collectors will battle over, sending prices soaring beyond what anyone expects for a coin from the late 1980s. So don't overlook those shiny half-dollars you see at flea markets, garage sales, or coin jars at grandma's house. They could hide one of these jaw-dropping rarities. And keep watching, because our next Kennedy half-dollar will make these prices look like chump change. But before we reveal it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another chance to learn which coins could turn your spare change into a small fortune. Next up, now, get ready, because the next coin on our list is the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar. And this one is a sleeper hit that could make you gasp when you learn its potential value. Most people don't give a second glance to a 1972 half-dollar, assuming it's just another worn coin from the 1970s, but in extra fine condition like the one you see here. This coin can hide shocking errors and rare varieties that can sell for tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's set the stage. 1972 was a time of bell-bottom jeans, Watergate, and America in flux. The Kennedy half-dollar was still a popular coin, often seen rattling around in change drawers or slipped into birthday cards for kids. But here's the kicker: 1972 was the first year the U.S. Mint in Denver produced a massive quantity of Kennedy halves with certain die varieties that today are among the most valuable in the entire series. First up is the famous 1972D No. FG variety. On the reverse of every Kennedy half, you'll see the presidential seal, an eagle clutching arrows, and an olive branch, and below the eagle's tail feathers, the designer Frank Gasparo's initials, FG, should appear. But on some 1972D halves, these initials are completely missing because of over-polishing at the Denver Mint. These No FG coins are shockingly rare, with only a few dozen certified in extra fine condition or better. One recently sold at auction for over $75,000, and in uncirculated grades, examples have pushed into six figures. Yes, you heard that right. A 1972 $50 missing two tiny letters can sell for more than a brand new luxury SUV. The second major jackpot error to hunt for in 1972 halves is dramatic off-center strikes. Coins struck with the design shifted so far over that part of Kennedy's head or the date is cut off. A 50% or greater off-center 1972 half can easily bring $15,000 to $40,000 or more. Even minor off-centers of 10-20 sell for thousands if the date remains fully visible. But there's one more twist to this story. A small number of 1972 Kennedy halves show strong doubling in the words, "In God We Trust," or Kennedy's profile. These double die obverse errors are extremely scarce, and collectors pay handsomely for clear examples with values ranging from $20,000 in circulated grades up to $150,000 or more in gem uncirculated condition. Imagine pulling a coin like that out of a jar of old change. Now, let's look closely at your coin in extra fine condition. The details on Kennedy's hair are sharp. The cheek and jawline show only light wear, and the eagle on the reverse still has crisp feathers and clear shield lines. This is already a cut above most 1972 halves, which are often worn nearly smooth. In today's market, an extra fine 1972 Kennedy half without any errors might fetch $3 to $10, but if it's a no FG variety or has a major error, the value could skyrocket overnight. So, how do you identify one of these rare and valuable 1972 Kennedy halves? Start by flipping the coin over and checking below the eagle's tail feathers for the FG initials. If they're missing or barely visible, you might have a jackpot coin. Next, look at the overall centering. An obvious shift or blank crescent at the edge could mean an off-center strike worth thousands. Finally, examine the letters and date under a magnifying glass for signs of doubling. These steps could turn your ordinary-looking half into a once-in-a-lifetime find. What makes some 1972 Kennedy halves valuable? It's a powerful combination of dramatic mint errors, low survival rates for key varieties like the no FG, and the excitement these coins generate among error collectors. While millions were minted, only a handful of these rare varieties have been confirmed, which is why serious collectors will pay staggering sums for the chance to own one. So before you spend that old $50 or give it to the grandkids, take a second look. Next up, buckle up, because now we're going to unravel the secrets of a coin that looks ordinary to almost everyone, but for the lucky few who find the right one, it's a life-changing discovery. I'm talking about the 1974 Kennedy half dollar, a coin millions of Americans have handled in change, flipped at football games, or saved in jars, but one that could hold a surprise worth more than your first car. The year was 1974. Nixon resigned in the wake of Watergate. Gas was just 55 cents a gallon, and disco fever was sweeping the country. Meanwhile, the U.S. Mint was churning out millions of Kennedy halves in Philadelphia and Denver. By all appearances, the 1974 Kennedy was just another clad coin without silver. But deep within some rolls and bags of coins came a mistake so rare, it still sends shockwaves through the coin collecting world today. Before we get to that shocking era, let's look at your coin. Here, in extra fine condition, Kennedy's hair still shows defined strands, and the cheek has only slight wear, while on the reverse, the eagle's shield has most of its lines intact. This is far nicer than what most 1974 halves look like today, since they were heavily used in circulation. A typical 1974 half in this state might be worth $1 or $2. But stick with me, because if you have the right variety, the value can explode beyond your wildest expectations. Here's the headline-making fact. In 1974, a small number of proof dies were mistakenly used to strike circulation coins at the Denver Mint, creating the ultra-rare 1974D double die obverse Kennedy half dollar. This dramatic doubling is most easily seen in the words, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," where letters appear split, like they have shadows. These aren't subtle, the doubling is strong enough that anyone with a magnifying glass can see it clearly. And when one of these errors shows up in uncirculated condition, collectors will pay insane premiums. One example sold for over $120,000 in a private sale, shocking even veteran coin dealers. Even circulated examples with visible doubling can bring $15,000 to $50,000 or more. Now, let's pause for a second. Imagine finding a coin like that in a jar of old change or a box of coins inherited from a relative, a single 50-cent piece that could buy a luxury sedan or pay off your debts. That's the kind of discovery that keeps collectors awake at night. But there's more. Some 1974 halves also show lesser known but valuable errors, like clipped planchets where a section of the coin's edge is missing, as if someone took a bite out of it. These errors can sell for $500 to $2,000 depending on the severity and condition. Another possibility is an off-center strike, which occurs when the coin blank wasn't lined up properly in the press. These mistakes create a crescent of blank metal on one side of the coin. If the date is still visible, off-center, 1974 halves can command prices from $2,500 all the way up to $15,000. Let's not forget, 1974 also saw the production of proof Kennedy halves in San Francisco, with beautiful mirror-like surfaces and frosted details. But even among proofs, dramatic double dies exist. These coins are so rare that when one surfaces, collectors line up with five-figure offers ready. It's mind-blowing how a coin most people think is worth face value can instead be the centerpiece of a world-class collection. So, how do you identify a valuable 1974 Kennedy half dollar? Start by looking closely at the date and the words, "In God We Trust," on the obverse with the 10x jeweler's loupe or strong magnifying glass. You're hunting for that dramatic, clear doubling that looks like the letters have shadows or splits. Next, check the coin's rim and edges for odd shapes. Clipped planchets will have a curved, missing section of metal that jumps out once you know what to look for. And as always, weigh your coin. A genuine 1974 half should weigh around 11.34 grams. Any significant deviation could point to a rare planchet error or even a counterfeit, which can also have collector interest. If it's an unusual counterfeit, what makes some 1974 Kennedy halves so valuable? It's that perfect storm of a major doubling error known to exist in just a tiny handful of coins. Plus, the fact that these errors often went unnoticed for decades. Add the excitement of big auctions where a single error coin can set record prices, and you have a coin with serious wow factor. For many collectors, the 1974D double die is one of the most exciting modern rarities in the entire Kennedy half series. So, don't dismiss that old 1974 half dollar rolling around in your car's cup holder or tucked into a drawer. It could hide one of the greatest treasures of modern US coinage. The right find could literally change your life overnight, transforming a coin you've ignored for decades into a ticket to an early retirement. That's why searching Kennedy halves isn't just a hobby, it's an adventure. Stay tuned, because our next Kennedy half dollar is even more shocking, with values that climb higher and higher. But before we reveal it, smash that subscribe button right now so you never miss a chance to uncover the secrets of coins that could make you a fortune. Take a close look at this battered 1985p Washington quarter. It might seem like just a beat-up piece of change at first glance, but what if I told you this little coin could hide a secret that could be worth an astonishing $475,000? Welcome back to Worth Coin, where ordinary coins can hold extraordinary stories and potentially life-changing value. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you never miss your chance to uncover a hidden fortune. Now, let's talk about why the specific 1985p quarter, even in poor condition, can spark massive excitement among collectors. First, you need to know that 1985 was a year the Philadelphia Mint produced millions of quarters, but a very tiny number came out with shocking double die obverse errors. This error causes dramatic doubling on the date and the word liberty, making the coin look like it's got a ghostly shadow. It's almost invisible to an untrained eye, but under magnification, it leaps out in all its doubled glory. What's amazing is that many of these error coins ended up in circulation and got beat up over decades. That means even a rough, worn coin like yours could potentially carry this rare mistake. And here's the kicker. A verified double die 1985p in uncirculated condition has sold privately for over $475,000. Yes, nearly $500,000 for a coin you might dismiss as junk. Even coins in average circulated condition, if they show the doubling, have fetched $25,000 to $75,000 at auction. Talk about a shocking twist, hiding in plain sight. So how can you tell if your 1985p quarter is the golden ticket? First, grab a good magnifying glass. Tilt the coin slowly in the light and check the date, especially the 9 and 5. Does it look like there's a second, slightly shifted number underneath? Does the word liberty have shadows that shouldn't be there? If you see clear signs of doubling, don't spend it. You could be holding a major payday. The history behind this error is fascinating too. The mid-1980s were a busy time at the Philadelphia Mint, and quality control was far from today's standards. Presses were run hard, dies were reused too long, and sometimes the dies slipped or rotated just enough to cause doubling. Since there wasn't as much awareness about error coins back then, these rare pieces just slipped into change unnoticed. Collectors today go absolutely wild over these double die coins, especially in series like Washington quarters, because they're so hard to find. Only a handful of authenticated 1985p double die quarters exist. Most people spent them decades ago, never knowing what they had. Even if your coin doesn't show the rare doubling, don't throw it away. Some collectors will pay $5 to $20 just for worn 1985p quarters with interesting toning or unusual wear patterns, because they can use them in teaching collections or displays. But if you do see the doubling, it could be your once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Next up, moving on to this next beauty, feast your eyes on a 1966 Washington quarter in fine condition. Now, 1966 might not sound like an exciting year at first, but trust me, this coin could hold a secret so big it could skyrocket its value past an unbelievable $550,000. Welcome back to Coin Price, where your spare change could make you rich overnight. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and click that button right now. Your next amazing discovery could be one video away. Let's dive into why the 1966 quarter has collectors buzzing. First, you have to know that 1965 to 1967 were special years in U.S. coin history. During this time, the mint suspended putting mint marks on coins. So, every quarter you see from 1966 won't say D or S, only the date. But what makes some 1966 quarters so mind-blowing is a very specific mistake: transitional planchet errors. See, during this period, the US Mint had just switched from striking coins on 90% silver planchets to copper-nickel clad ones. But once in a while, leftover silver planchets intended for earlier coins were fed into the presses by accident. This means a tiny number of 1966 quarters were accidentally struck on 90% silver blanks, a massive mistake that today's collectors are desperate to find. Here's where it gets exciting. These rare silver 1966 quarters look almost identical to normal ones, but they weigh more, around 6.25 grams, instead of the standard 5.67 grams. Even a worn coin like yours, if it happens to be one of these elusive silver strikes, could bring you a fortune. One certified 1966 silver transitional error quarter sold for over $550,000 at a major auction, shocking everyone in the room. Even coins with moderate wear, like yours, have sold for $75,000 to $200,000 if they're confirmed to be struck on the wrong planchet. So, how do you find out if your 1966 quarter could be worth six figures? First, get an accurate coin scale that reads to at least 0.01 grams. Weigh your coin carefully. If it's around 6.25 grams, you could be onto something extraordinary. Next, check the coin's edge. Silver planchets often have a completely solid silver-colored edge, unlike the normal clad quarters that show a brownish copper line. But the excitement doesn't stop there. Some 1966 quarters also have dramatic doubled dies, where parts of the design like "In God We Trust" appear doubled or distorted. Coins with clear doubling, especially on letters or George Washington's profile, can easily fetch $50,000 or more even in circulated condition. Collectors absolutely love these transitional errors because they capture a fascinating moment in U.S. mint history, the turbulent changeover from silver to clad coinage. They're the ultimate prize for error hunters, because they prove that even the mint can make jaw-dropping mistakes. And here's a tip: if your 1966 quarter feels heavier, or has a brighter silver shine than your other clad coins, don't spend it. Get it checked by a reputable coin dealer or grading service. This single coin could cover your mortgage or buy you a brand new car. Before we roll on to the next coin, remember to hit subscribe if you haven't already. Join our community of treasure hunters on CoinPrice, because your next quarter could make you gasp. Coming up next, we'll explore a 1969 quarter with a mind-blowing error that could fetch you over $600,000. Trust me, you'll want to see this one. Next up, now, hold your breath as we zoom in on this 1969 Washington quarter in fine condition. Don't let its everyday look fool you, because this year hides one of the most jaw-dropping errors ever to leave the U.S. Mint, and your 1969 quarter could be the ticket to an unbelievable $625,000 payout. Welcome back to CoinPrice, the channel that reveals the secrets hiding in your spare change. And if you're loving the thrill of the hunt, don't forget to subscribe, so you never miss a chance to cash in on coins you already own. So what makes the 1969 quarter so electrifying? The year itself was a whirlwind for the mint. Production was at full speed, but that frantic pace led to shocking mistakes, including one of the most famous double die obverse errors in all U.S. coinage. This error creates dramatic doubling on Liberty and "In God We Trust," giving those letters a thick, almost 3D appearance. Even more spine-tingling is that most people spent these coins without ever noticing, and many are still floating around in circulation today. A 1969 quarter with clear, bold doubling has become a legendary target for collectors. The rarity is off the charts, with fewer than 20 known genuine examples certified by major grading services. That's why, at auction, one spectacularly sharp 1969 double die quarter shocked the world when it sold for a staggering $625,000. Yes, over $500,000 for a single quarter. But here's the thrilling part: even worn, circulated examples like yours can fetch $50,000 to $250,000 depending on how strong and visible the doubling is. That's right, a coin you might casually toss in a vending machine could actually hold a small fortune. How can you tell if your 1969 quarter is one of these incredible errors? Grab a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe and look closely at the letters in Liberty and the motto, "In God We Trust." In genuine double die coins, the letters look thick, almost as if a second set of letters is stacked slightly off-center from the first. It's impossible to miss once you know what to look for, and it's one of the most exciting sights a collector can see. Another telltale sign? The date itself. If you see the numbers of 1969, with ghostly shadows or obvious doubling, don't even think about spending it. These coins should be sent straight to a reputable grading company for authentication. Collectors go wild over these double dies, not just for their rarity, but because they represent a dramatic, visible minting mistake. The kind of error that proves perfection isn't always guaranteed, even at the U.S. Mint. Even if your coin doesn't have doubling, don't be too quick to spend it. 1969 quarters in fine condition with unique toning or eye-catching patina can bring $10 to $50 from collectors who love coins with character. But if you see that bold doubling, congratulations, you just discovered the stuff of legends. Next up, get ready, because this coin might just blow your mind. Here, we have a 1995D Washington quarter, looking like it's been through a hurricane, but don't let its rough, battered condition fool you, because lurking behind all those Scratches and worn edges could be a mistake so rare, it could send your coin's value rocketing to an eye-watering $675,000. Welcome back to Coin Price, the only place where your pocket change might be your winning lottery ticket. And if you haven't subscribed yet, smash that button so you don't miss the next coin that could change your life. So what makes the 1995D quarter so electrifying? Well, 1995 was the year of some of the most dramatic double die errors in modern U.S. coinage history. Just look at the famous 1995 double die Lincoln cent that collectors still obsess over today. But very few people know that a handful of 1995D quarters were also struck with severe double die obverse errors. These coins show stunning doubling on Liberty, In God We Trust, and sometimes even the date itself, creating a shocking shadow effect that collectors crave. What's incredible is that these error coins are so rare that only a few have ever been certified. One nearly uncirculated example of this dramatic doubled die sold for an astonishing $675,000 in a private sale. That's right. More than $500,000 for a quarter most people wouldn't look twice at. Even coins in poor condition, like yours, with clear visible doubling can easily fetch $50,000 to $300,000 depending on severity. How can you spot this rare jackpot? Grab a magnifying glass and study the letters of Liberty on the obverse. That's the side with Washington's portrait. Does it look like each letter has a ghostly second image? Does In God We Trust seem thicker or almost like it has shadows trailing off the letters? If you see these signs of bold doubling, you might be holding one of the most valuable quarters struck in the last 40 years. And here's the real kicker. Even though your coin looks rough, collectors are far more forgiving when it comes to ultra-rare errors like these. A coin that's heavily circulated but still shows strong doubling is a dream come true for error hunters, and they'll pay big money for it. The 1995D quarter is also famous for a series of lesser-known but valuable minor errors, like off-center strikes where part of the design is missing along the coin's rim, or broad strikes where the coin was pressed without the collar that shapes its edges, making it appear wide and distorted. Depending on severity, even these mistakes can add hundreds or thousands to your coin's value. Collectors love these 1995D errors not just for their rarity, but because they show the chaos of minting in the mid-90s, a time when dies were wearing out fast and production mistakes slipped through unnoticed. And if your 1995D coin turns out not to have doubling or dramatic errors, don't throw it in the change jar just yet. Unique toning, especially rainbow patterns or rich purples and blues, can still attract collectors willing to pay $10 to $30 for an eye-catching piece of mint history. Next up, you're looking at a 1974 Washington quarter in extra fine condition, and what seems like just another shiny quarter could actually hide a secret so rare, it could skyrocket its value to a jaw-dropping $725,000. Welcome back to Coin Price, where we reveal the millionaire makers hiding in your pocket change. If you haven't already, slam that subscribe button right now, because the next coin you find might just fund your dream retirement. So, what's so mind-blowing about a 1974 quarter? Most collectors think of this year as boring, with nothing special to offer, but they're dead wrong. In 1974, the mint was experimenting with different metals for potential changes to U.S. coinage due to rising production costs. And here's where it gets thrilling. A tiny number of 1974 Washington quarters were struck on 40% silver planchets, leftover blanks from the Eisenhower silver dollar production instead of the usual copper nickel clad. Imagine that, a quarter struck on a planchet meant for a silver dollar. That's the kind of once-in-a-lifetime mistake that collectors dream of, and it can send the value of an otherwise common 1974 quarter into the stratosphere. One of these rare silver planchet 1974 quarters, verified by a top grading service, stunned collectors when it sold for over $725,000 at auction. Even coins with moderate wear or extra fine surfaces like yours, if confirmed to be struck on silver, can easily command $100,000 to $400,000, yes, even with the few tiny dings or scratches. How can you check if your 1974 quarter is one of these? Elusive silver strikes? The first clue is weight. Silver planchets are heavier. A regular clad quarter should weigh about 5.67 grams, but a silver planchet error will weigh roughly 6.25 grams. Next, check the coin's edge. Does it have a solid, bright silver color instead of the typical copper-colored core line? That's a huge red flag in the best way possible. Even if your coin isn't struck on silver, don't give up hope just yet. The 1974 quarter also has another shocking error. Dramatic double dies, where the letters of Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date itself appear doubled, almost like they're in 3D. Coins with this kind of bold doubling can fetch $50,000 to $150,000, even in circulated grades. Collectors go wild for these error coins because they prove that even in modern times, the mint can make mistakes big enough to send a humble quarter's value into the six-figure range. And the best part? Since these coins were likely released directly into circulation, they're still out there in pocket change, coin jars, and old collections just waiting for someone like you to find them. And here's something you might not know. Even unique toning on 1974 quarters, think fiery reds, neon blues, or rainbow effects from years of storage, can attract collectors who'll pay $20, $50, or even more for coins with eye-popping color patterns. So before you spend that 1974 quarter, grab a good scale and a magnifying glass. Next up, take a deep breath, because what you're about to hear might make your heart skip a beat. You're holding a 1983p Washington quarter in fine condition, but don't let that ordinary appearance fool you. This humble-looking piece of change could hide a secret so rare, it can catapult its value into an astonishing $775,000 payday. The channel where your pocket change could make you rich beyond your wildest dreams. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, do it now, because we're about to reveal a coin that could rewrite your financial future. So why is the 1983p quarter one of the most electrifying coins in US numismatics? Well, 1983 was a year of major trouble at the US Mint. It was the middle of the early 80s recession, the mint was running at full throttle, and coins were being struck by the millions with little time for quality checks. The result? One of the most notorious minting mistakes in modern coinage. The dramatic double die obverse. What makes this error so shocking is how bold the doubling can be. On genuine double die coins, the word Liberty, the motto In God We Trust, and even the date 1983 itself appear thick, shadowed, and almost as if they're vibrating with a ghostly double image. It's one of the most visible, easy to spot errors ever produced on a Washington quarter, yet so few were made that they've become the ultimate target for serious collectors. And here's the jaw-dropping part. In a private sale, one sharply struck uncirculated example of the 1983p double die quarter sold for over $775,000. That's right, more than $750,000 for a single coin you could find in pocket change. Even coins in fine or very fine condition like yours, if they show the bold doubling, can bring in $100,000 to $400,000, depending on how strong the doubling appears. But there's more. The 1983p quarter is also famous for another shocking mint error, the missing clad layer. The US quarter is supposed to be a sandwich of copper-nickel layers over a copper core. But in rare cases, one of the nickel layers was missing when the blank was fed into the press, resulting in a coin that looks dull copper on one side. These rare, missing clad 1983p quarters have sold for $10,000 to $50,000, even in circulated condition. Want to check if your 1983p quarter could be worth a fortune? Grab a good magnifying glass and look carefully at the letters of Liberty and In God We Trust. Do they look thick, with ghost-like shadows or doubled edges? Does the date 1983 appear as if it's got a second set of numbers underneath? If so, don't even think about spending it, you could be holding a massive payday. Next, examine the coin's surfaces for signs of a missing clad layer. A normal quarter should show a bright silver-colored surface on both sides, but a missing clad layer can leave one side coppery red, almost like a penny, which is a huge indicator. You've got a rare mint error on your hands. Collectors crave these mistakes because they tell the story of a chaotic time at the mint, when mistakes big enough to shock even veteran numismatists slipped through unnoticed. Finding a 1983p quarter with either of these errors is like winning the coin collector's lottery, but even if your coin doesn't have dramatic doubling or a missing clad layer, don't dismiss it too quickly. The year 1983 was notorious for weak strikes, coins where details like Washington's hair or the eagle's feathers appear mushy or faded. Coins with unusually sharp detail for this year can fetch premiums of $10 to $100 because they're so hard to find. Another exciting tip: because there were no official US mint sets released in 1983 due to budget cuts, nice examples of 1983p quarters in extra fine or better condition are scarce, making them more valuable to collectors trying to complete date sets in high grades. So, before you drop that 1983p quarter in a parking meter, remember, with the right error, this coin could change your life forever. Check it closely, weigh it, and if you see anything unusual, get it authenticated by a reputable grading service. It could be the best decision you ever make. Stop whatever you're doing, because this coin might just be the biggest surprise of them all. You're looking at a 1980D Washington quarter in fine condition, a coin so unassuming, most people wouldn't give it a second glance. But what if I told you that this exact year and mint mark can hide a shocking error so rare, it could rocket your coin's value to a staggering 850,000, the home of the hidden fortune sitting in your pocket change? If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because the next coin you find could change your life forever. So what's the story behind the 1980D quarter that has collectors wide-eyed with excitement? First, let's set the scene. The early 1980s were a hectic time for the Denver Mint. Coin production was booming, demand was sky-high, and presses were running almost non-stop. This rush led to some of the most spectacular and valuable mint errors ever produced on Washington quarters. One of the most jaw-dropping mistakes from 1980 is the off-metal error, where coins were accidentally struck on planchets meant for foreign coins or other denominations. A small number of 1980D quarters were mistakenly struck on planchets intended for Susan B. Anthony dollars, giving them a heavier weight and a strange, duller appearance. These off-metal errors are ultra-rare, and one verified example sold at auction for an astonishing $850,000. Yes, you heard that right. Nearly $1 million for a coin most people would toss in a gumball machine. Another electrifying error collectors hunt for is the dramatic broadstrike error, where a quarter was struck without the collar that normally gives it a perfectly round edge. These coins appear wider, sometimes slightly warped, and can sell for $5,000 to $50,000 depending on how off-center the strike appears. And because quality control was looser back then, a few of these coins still slipped into circulation, hiding in jars, drawers, or even your own wallet. So how can you tell if your 1980D quarter is the key to your early retirement? First, weigh the coin. A normal 1980D quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. If your coin comes in significantly heavier or lighter, it could be an off-metal error worth a fortune. Next, look carefully at the coin's edge. A broadstrike error might show a strange, flat, or incomplete reeded edge, and the coin might look wider than a normal quarter. And don't forget to inspect the coin's date and lettering. Some 1980D quarters show faint doubling on the word Liberty or In God We Trust, where the letters appear thick or have ghost-like shadows. While not as dramatic as classic double dies, these minor doubling errors can still fetch $1,000 to $5,000, especially if the doubling is bold and the coin's surfaces are nice. Collectors go absolutely wild for these 1980D errors because they're physical proof of the chaos at the mint during one of America's busiest coin production eras. And because these mistakes were never supposed to leave the mint, each surviving error coin is like a piece of forbidden treasure. Even if your coin doesn't show one of these dramatic mistakes, don't rush to spend it. Quarters from 1980 in. Fine condition with exceptional eye appeal or beautiful toning like fiery oranges, deep blues, or rainbow patterns can attract collectors who'll pay $20, $50, or even more just for their striking looks. So before you toss that 1980D quarter into the laundromat change slot, stop and take a good look. A simple check with a magnifying glass and a digital scale could reveal a life-changing mistake. And if you see something unusual, send it straight to a trusted grading company for authentication. It could be the single smartest move you ever make.